Before you chase success, before you demand respect, before you dream of power, ask yourself one question: who truly controls your life? Your ambition or your impulses? Most people believe their failures come from the world, from bad luck, from circumstance. But the truth is far more brutal. You are defeated long before the battle begins, defeated by your emotions, your distractions, and your inability to command yourself. Today we are going to expose the chains you cannot see, the habits that weaken you, the impulses that enslave you, the comfort that quietly destroys you. And then we will replace them with something far more dangerous: discipline. Niccolò Machiavelli believed that the greatest power a person can possess is not authority over others, but authority over themselves. Not the ability to command armies, but the ability to command desire, emotion, routine, and time. This is the foundation of every strong leader, every strategist, every individual who rises above the masses. And yet, in our world, people have forgotten this. They chase shortcuts, crave quick victories, and surrender to distractions that assassinate their potential every day. This script is your remedy. We will break down the 7 laws of self-discipline through the eyes of Machiavelli, laws that are uncompromising, uncomfortable, and transformational. If you are willing to confront yourself, if you are ready to abandon the weakness that has held you captive, then keep watching, because what you are about to learn will either rebuild you or expose you. When you look at the world around you, you may think people rise because of luck, talent, or some divine blessing that separates the chosen from the forgotten. But Niccolò Machiavelli would laugh at such illusions. He knew the truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Power does not belong to the gifted. Power belongs to the disciplined. Discipline is not a virtue. It is not a moral decoration you wear to feel noble. It is a weapon, a sharp, unforgiving blade that cuts through weakness, distraction, and temptation. And only those who dare to wield it become masters of their fate instead of slaves to their impulses. Imagine a ruler stepping into a court where everyone else is intoxicated by comfort, distracted by gossip, and paralyzed by fear. That ruler would not need to be the smartest or the strongest. He would only need to be the one capable of doing what others refuse to do. This is the essence of discipline in the Machiavellian world. The disciplined individual becomes superior not by nature, but by choice. They rise simply because no one else is willing to rise with them. And in this, Machiavelli found the first and greatest advantage any human can possess. When fortune shifts, when chaos arrives, when plans collapse and life strikes without warning, the undisciplined crumble. They react emotionally, impulsively, desperately. But the disciplined individual does not fear chaos. They expect it. They prepare for it long before others even notice the storm forming. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors the prepared mind, the prepared strategy, the prepared soul. Fortune favors those whose discipline builds them into fortresses that cannot be shaken by external winds. Think for a moment about your own life. How much have you lost because you surrendered to distraction? How many opportunities passed because you waited for motivation instead of structuring your actions? How many dreams faded because your impulses won the battle that your ambition should have? This is the truth most people avoid. Lack of discipline destroys more potential than failure ever could. Failure is an event. Lack of discipline is a lifestyle. In Machiavelli's view, every undisciplined person becomes easy to predict, easy to manipulate, and easy to defeat. Their emotions guide them. Their desires control them. Their fear dictates their choices. But the disciplined individual is different. They are deliberate, strategic, measured. They do nothing by accident. Even their silence has intention behind it. Even their patience is a tactical decision. To discipline yourself is to build an inner government where reason rules over emotion, where strategy dominates over impulse, where purpose replaces chaos. Most people rise in life only when conditions are perfect. But Machiavelli taught that the strongest leaders, the most powerful individuals, are the ones who rise precisely when conditions are impossible. They thrive in the very environment that destroys everyone else. Why? Because their discipline is not dependent on mood, convenience, or ease. Their discipline is forged through commitment, through repetition, through an unbreakable refusal to surrender to comfort. Consider what happens when an individual chooses discipline over pleasure. Their energy transforms from scattered fragments into a concentrated force. Their mind becomes sharper, more observant, more dangerous. They start noticing patterns others overlook. They develop endurance others lack. Their focus becomes a weapon capable of slicing through obstacles that would overwhelm the average person. Machiavelli recognized that a disciplined mind does not merely react to the world, it shapes the world. But discipline is not only about performing great tasks. It begins in the smallest decisions of your day. Waking when your body wants to sleep. Working when your mind wants to wander. Saying no when your desires demand yes. Discipline is forged in those quiet, invisible battles that no one applauds, no one witnesses, no one praises. Yet these battles create the foundation for conquest. Machiavelli believed that a person who could conquer themselves could conquer anything. A person who could not conquer themselves would forever remain conquered by the world. Discipline is also the great multiplier of talent. Talent without discipline is a wasted seed, promising but fruitless. But discipline without talent still produces results because consistency always defeats potential that sleeps. History does not remember the almost great. It remembers the disciplined, the relentless, the ones who show up long after inspiration has died. Discipline is the force that carries you through the moments when motivation abandons you, when fatigue suffocates you, when doubt whispers lies. Motivation may excite you, but discipline builds you. And in the grand arena of life, Machiavelli knew that the disciplined individual does not simply win more battles, they choose which battles are worth fighting. They are not pulled by every distraction, every temptation, every emotional impulse. They conserve their strength for the battles that matter. This is how discipline becomes power. It is the ability to direct your energy with purpose instead of leaking it through chaos. It is the ability to act when needed and restrain yourself when necessary. This is why discipline is the first weapon of power. It gives you control over time, over actions, over reactions, over habits, over destiny. And the one who controls themselves controls everything around them. Because the world bends not to the loudest, not to the strongest, but to the most disciplined amongst them in the pursuit of power and self-discipline. There is one battlefield that matters more than any other, the battlefield of emotion. Most people assume discipline is about routines, habits, strict schedules. But Machiavelli understood something far deeper. He knew that a person who cannot govern their emotions cannot govern their actions, and a person who cannot govern their actions cannot govern their destiny. Control begins not in the hands or the body, but in the mind, in the quiet spaces where emotion whispers and tries to command you. Imagine two individuals standing before adversity. One becomes overwhelmed, drowning in panic, reacting impulsively, saying things they regret, making choices they never intended. The other stands firm, observing, calculating, responding with precision instead of panic. Which of the two do you believe the world bends toward? Which one becomes a leader people fear, respect, or follow? Machiavelli would tell you it is always the one who keeps a leash on their emotions, even as the world around them loses its composure. Emotional control is not about feeling nothing. That is impossible and even foolish. What Machiavelli teaches is far more strategic. Feel everything but show little. Experience emotion, but do not let it guide your actions. Emotion is a signal, not a commander. When you let it command you, you turn into a puppet controlled by impulses. But when you learn to master it, you become the puppeteer who sets the stage while everyone else dances to their internal storms. Think about your own life. How many times have you spoken out of anger and regretted it? How many opportunities slipped away because fear convinced you to wait? How many relationships were damaged because pride was louder than reason? Each of those moments is a simple truth revealing itself. Emotion defeated you long before any external challenge did. And Machiavelli knew that the greatest defeats in life do not come from enemies, but from the battles we lose inside our own skulls. To develop discipline, you must become a strategist of your emotional world. When anger rises, most people react instantly, like a spark igniting dry grass. But the disciplined individual delays. They give themselves a moment to think, to analyze, to decide how that anger can be used rather than wasted. Anger can be destructive, but in the hands of a disciplined mind, it becomes fuel, it becomes clarity, it becomes leverage. Machiavelli would remind you that even a negative emotion can be converted into power when you control its expression. Fear operates the same way. Most people run from discomfort, they hesitate in the face of uncertainty, they avoid risk to protect their fragile sense of safety. But the disciplined individual does not deny fear, they study it. They recognize it as a map revealing what must be confronted. They see fear not as an obstacle, but as a compass directing them toward growth. This is how rulers rise. They walk where others refuse to walk. They do what others avoid, and they conquer the emotional chains that keep the majority trapped. Emotional control also gives you an immense advantage over other people. When you remain calm, others reveal themselves. Their insecurities spill out. Their fears become obvious. Their intentions become transparent. A person ruled by emotion is an open book. A person who controls emotion is a locked vault. Machiavelli valued this greatly because unpredictability is a form of power. When people cannot guess your emotional state, they cannot manipulate it, they cannot control your reactions, they cannot weaken you with their opinions or actions. And yet, emotional control is not simply silence or stoicism. It is about intention. You may choose to show anger not because you feel it intensely, but because it serves a purpose. You may choose to show joy not because you are emotionally overwhelmed, but because it maintains alliances or eases tension. To control emotion is to use it as a tool, not as a confession. Most people reveal their inner world constantly. The disciplined individual reveals only what strengthens their position. This discipline creates an aura around you. People sense it. They notice your calm. They notice your intentional speech, your thoughtful responses, your absence of emotional chaos. And suddenly, you become someone they look to in times of instability. You become a stabilizing force. You gain influence simply by being the person who does not collapse under pressure. Machiavelli believed that power gravitates naturally to those who appear unshaken, even when they feel the tremors internally. But emotional control does not come naturally. It is a skill forged through observation and practice. You must become familiar with your emotional triggers, study them, understand them. Do not judge yourself for having them. Instead, learn how to respond rather than react. When anger appears, pause. When fear appears, breathe deeply and dissect it. When sadness appears, acknowledge it without letting it halt your progress. The key is not suppression but mastery. Some days your emotions will be loud. They will try to sabotage you. They will whisper lies of doubt, fatigue, insecurity. This is the moment when discipline reveals itself. Anyone can appear controlled when life is easy, but when difficulty tightens its grip, the disciplined individual maintains composure through sheer will. They become the commander of their inner army, directing thoughts, controlling impulses, choosing responses. In this, you gain something extraordinary, the ability to act with clarity even when your heart is chaotic, the ability to think strategically when others are overwhelmed, the ability to remain steady when others shake. And this steadiness turns into strength. It becomes respect. It becomes authority. It becomes power. When you conquer your emotions, you become untouchable. No insult can weaken you. No manipulation can sway you. No disappointment can break you. No fear can paralyze you. You stand above the turbulence that consumes others, and in doing so, you rise above them as well. There is a truth about discipline that most people refuse to accept because it exposes their weakness. They believe discipline is a spark, a moment of motivation, a sudden surge of determination. But Machiavelli understood that true discipline is not fire, it is stone. It is carved slowly, painfully, with repetition and consistency that outlasts emotion, mood, and circumstance. Anyone can act with strength once. Anyone can be focused for a day. Anyone can feel motivated for a week. But the individual who repeats the same necessary actions long after excitement has died becomes something far more dangerous: consistent. Machiavelli saw consistency as the backbone of power, not the loud battles, not the dramatic victories, but the quiet, relentless actions carried out with unwavering commitment. Leaders fall not because they lack intelligence, but because they cannot maintain their direction when hardship strikes. People fail not because they lack talent, but because they lack consistency. The world does not reward the one who starts the strongest, it rewards the one who refuses to stop. Imagine a ruler who prepares his armies only when danger is near. Imagine a commander who trains his soldiers only when morale is high. Such a ruler would be conquered easily because their preparation depends on convenience, not necessity. The disciplined person understands that consistency means doing what must be done regardless of how they feel. They do not wait for inspiration to strike. They create momentum through repetition. They build their power brick by brick, while others wait for the perfect moment that never arrives. This is what makes consistency ruthless. It demands that you keep going even when every part of you wants to quit. It demands that you sacrifice comfort and pleasure in exchange for progress. It demands that you repeat the same unglamorous actions day after day while no one notices and no one applauds. But this is where true strength is built, not in the spotlight, but in solitude, not in bursts of passion, but in long stretches of discipline that seem invisible to the world. Think about your own ambitions. How many times have you started something with energy, only to abandon it when the excitement faded? How many goals have you pursued aggressively for a week, only to let them slip away because progress felt too slow or the work felt too heavy? Each time this happens, your potential weakens and your discipline erodes. Machiavelli believed that inconsistency is a silent enemy. It does not announce its arrival, but it destroys everything you aim to build. True discipline is merciless in its demands. It expects you to show up even when your emotions rebel. It expects you to repeat the behaviors that lead to success even when your body is tired. It expects you to remain committed when the results are invisible. Because consistency understands a secret, all great transformations happen in the unseen layers of time. Seeds grow in the dark before they ever break through the soil. Empires are planned behind closed doors before they ever dominate the world. Individuals rise long before anyone notices them. People often fear failure, but Machiavelli taught that inconsistency is far more dangerous. Failure teaches, failure strengthens, failure reshapes your strategy, but inconsistency breaks your character. It teaches your mind that your promises mean nothing. It teaches your body that your discomfort is stronger than your will. It teaches your habits that they are temporary, optional, disposable. And once you train yourself to abandon commitments, discipline becomes impossible to reclaim. Consistency, on the other hand, builds an internal authority. Every time you honor a commitment, you strengthen the part of you that can be trusted. You become reliable to yourself. And that reliability transforms into confidence that does not depend on praise or validation. When you know you can follow through, when you know you can endure repetition, when you know you can persist through monotony, you become unstoppable. You no longer need motivation. You no longer need encouragement. You move forward because momentum becomes part of your identity. Machiavelli would say that consistent individuals become feared, not because they threaten others, but because others cannot keep up with them. The average person is governed by moods. They rise and fall with emotion. But the disciplined individual moves with a steady, unstoppable rhythm. And this creates a psychological advantage. People recognize that you are relentless. They notice that your energy does not fade. They realize that you cannot be worn down easily. And in a world where most people quit at the first sign of discomfort, consistency becomes a form of dominance. Consider the warrior who trains every day, sharpening his skills. His enemies may be stronger today, but his consistency slowly erodes the difference. Consider the scholar who reads every night. Her mind expands beyond the reach of those who read only when they feel inspired. Consider the creator who practices relentlessly while others wait for the perfect moment. Over time, their consistency becomes mastery, and mastery becomes influence. Consistency also has a compounding effect. Small actions repeated daily become unstoppable forces. A single workout changes nothing, but a year of discipline transforms a body. A single hour of focus is insignificant, but months of consistency reshape a mind. A single moment of self-control is forgettable, but years of repeated restraint build an identity made of iron. This is the kind of transformation Machiavelli admired, not sudden dramatic changes, but slow, deliberate evolution. But the greatest strength in consistency lies in this. It separates you from the masses. Most people begin with enthusiasm, but almost none continue with discipline. The world is full of starters and dreamers, but very few finishers, very few endure. Very few remain committed when the path becomes long and demanding. And so the few who do are rewarded with outcomes that others only fantasize about. This is why consistency is ruthless. It demands sacrifice. It demands repetition. It demands patience. It demands that you show up when your mind is tired, when your heart is heavy, when your willpower is low. But through this ruthlessness, it builds something magnificent. A version of you that is stronger than emotion, stronger than doubt, stronger than comfort, stronger than excuses. A version of you that rises above average people simply because you do not stop when they do. This is the true discipline Machiavelli understood. The discipline of showing up, repeating the essentials, sharpening your edge day after day, until your consistency becomes your power, and your power becomes your identity. There is a temptation that destroys more ambition than failure ever could. It whispers to you every day. It tells you to choose pleasure now, reward now, comfort now. It seduces you into believing that satisfaction must be immediate, that success must be quick, that progress must be visible. But Machiavelli knew that this craving for instant gratification is the enemy of disciplined minds and the downfall of those who wish to rise. The path to power is not paved with quick victories. It is built with patience, sacrifice, and the strategic understanding that every great achievement requires time. The disciplined individual does not chase small rewards. They pursue the long-term advantage. They are willing to endure discomfort today for strength tomorrow. They are willing to sacrifice pleasure now for mastery later. They are willing to wait, not passively but strategically, because they understand that time is not an obstacle but a weapon. Machiavelli observed that the most powerful leaders were the ones who never allowed their desires to outrun their strategy. They were not guided by impulse, but by vision. They delayed their victories long enough to ensure they were permanent. They understood that rushing creates weakness, but patience creates dominance. And this principle applies not only to rulers, but to anyone attempting to discipline their life. Think about your goals. How many times have you abandoned a path simply because the results did not arrive quickly enough? How often have you chosen the easy reward over the difficult lesson? How often have you traded future success for present comfort? Each of these choices weakens your discipline and strengthens your dependency on instant gratification. But the disciplined mind understands a simple truth. If the reward is immediate, it is almost never meaningful. Consider a warrior preparing for battle. If he demands to see improvement every day, he will become discouraged. Strength does not reveal itself instantly. Mastery does not unfold overnight. Progress hides itself until enough consistency has accumulated to make it undeniable. This is why the disciplined individual learns to endure the invisible seasons of growth. They do not quit when the results are slow, because they understand that slowness does not mean failure, it means foundation. Machiavelli emphasized the importance of playing the long game. He believed that those who could delay gratification held an advantage in every arena, in politics, in war, in negotiation, in personal development. Those who wait strategically always outmaneuver those who rush. Because the impatient reveal their intentions. They expose their weaknesses. They fall into traps set by those who are capable of thinking beyond the moment. The disciplined individual sees beyond the present. They see the outcome before it exists. They understand that every sacrifice today strengthens the future, and the future is where true power resides. A person addicted to immediate comfort will never control their destiny, because they are always reacting to the present, never shaping what comes next. But the one who delays gratification is always 3 steps ahead. They prepare while others relax. They study while others celebrate. They strengthen their mind when others weaken theirs. This is not easy. Delaying gratification requires you to fight your own instincts. It requires you to silence the desire for immediate reward. It requires you to tolerate uncertainty. It requires you to trust in a process that may not reveal its results for months or even years. But this trust is what separates those who rise from those who remain trapped in mediocrity. Machiavelli believed that the greatest victories belong to those who can resist the seduction of the moment. Think about the habits that shape your life. Every time you resist a temptation, you grow stronger. Every time you delay a reward, you build discipline. Every time you choose long-term progress over short-term pleasure, you sharpen your identity. Slowly, you transform from someone controlled by desire into someone who controls desire. And that transformation is where power begins. But delaying gratification is not simply about self-denial. It is about strategy. It is about choosing precisely when to act, when to wait, and when to strike. Machiavelli admired leaders who waited for the perfect moment rather than acting impulsively. Such leaders were not slow, they were measured. They did not hesitate, they calculated. They did not avoid action, they perfected it. And this mindset applies to every pursuit you have. When you delay gratification, you are not depriving yourself, you are positioning yourself for greater results. Time reveals everything. It exposes weak strategies, weak people, weak habits. But it also rewards the disciplined. It strengthens those who are patient enough to endure. It rewards those who continue while others quit. It elevates those who refuse to be seduced by the immediate. Machiavelli believed that time is the ally of the disciplined and the enemy of the impulsive. Whoever masters time masters possibility. When you delay gratification, you gain an edge over your competitors. While they chase quick wins, you build systems. While they seek applause, you build skill. While they demand comfort, you build resilience. Eventually, the gap becomes so wide that they can never catch you. Your discipline puts you in positions that shortcuts can never reach. Your patience creates opportunities that the impulsive will never see. Your long-term thinking becomes an armor that protects you from the chaos of short-term desire. In the end, the disciplined individual becomes someone others cannot predict, influence, or manipulate. They are not driven by craving, impulse, or desperation. They are driven by purpose, vision, and long-term strategy. This is what Machiavelli valued most. The individual who can delay gratification becomes unstoppable because their mind is not chained to the present. It is committed to the future, and the future belongs to those who can wait and endure, while others surrender to the temptation of now. In the end, everything returns to a single truth: power belongs to the disciplined. Not to the dreamer waiting for inspiration, not to the impulsive ruled by emotion, not to the inconsistent who act only when it is easy, and not to the impatient who demand rewards before paying the price. Power belongs to the one who governs themselves with precision, who sharpens their habits like a blade, who delays gratification until victory is undeniable. This journey is not for the faint-hearted. It demands sacrifice, self-command, and a willingness to stand alone when others choose comfort. But if you embrace these laws, if you discipline your mind, control your emotions, stay ruthlessly consistent, and think beyond the moment, you will separate yourself from the masses who drift through life without direction. You will become someone whose actions are intentional, whose mindset is fortified, and whose results cannot be denied. Machiavelli understood that the greatest conquest is not ruling over others, but ruling over oneself. Because once you master yourself, there is nothing left in this world capable of mastering you.